So it's official. Ruiz Joshua 2 will be in Saudi Arabia. This is the battle camp. Please hit the subscribe button. You'll find it at the bottom right hand corner of your screen. So on Friday, news started filtering through via Twitter, via people like Mike Coppinger, that a deal had been agreed for them to fight each other in Saudi Arabia. And pretty soon after that, the official accounts, Eddie Hearn, Joshua, etc., tweeted out and put on Instagram that, yeah, it's official. Ruiz Joshua 2 will take place in Diriyah in Saudi Arabia on December the 7th. And they're calling it Clash on the Dunes. I'd have picked a better name if I'm honest, but fuck it. So yeah. I decided not to make a video about this on Friday when all of this broke, because during the breaking of this news, Eddie Hearn mentioned that there was going to be a press conference held on Monday, which was yesterday. So I thought to myself, let's wait for the press conference, let's get some more information so I can talk with a bit more knowledge and understanding about this subject. Now, with regards to the location, I've noticed there's been a lot of backlash from UK fans. They're disappointed that it's not in Cardiff, and I totally understand that perspective, because obviously it's a lot easier to travel to Cardiff than it is to Saudi Arabia. And as a person that lives in the UK, if I'm going to book tickets for a fight, if I'm going to book flights and accommodation to a different country to watch a fight, I want to make a holiday out of it. And maybe it's just a lack of knowledge on my part, but I wouldn't necessarily want to go on holiday in Saudi Arabia. Who knows? Maybe it's a good country to go and visit if you want to have a holiday. But I can think of locations and places that perhaps are better for a holiday. Do you know what I mean? So I can understand where the frustration is coming from a fan's point of view. Um, Along with this, there was also a bit of a backlash with regards to Saudi Arabia's recent political dealings and political things that Saudi Arabia as a state have been involved with. And there was a few questions thrown at Eddie Hearn with regards to this. Now, personally, again, it's not a subject that I know an awful lot about, but I do know that there's been some questionable things that Saudi Arabia as a state have been involved with. I'm not going to talk about it too much because all of it's allegedly, and again, I don't know enough about it to have a point of view, but I suppose there's an element of controversy with Saudi Arabia being the location for this fight, given that there's some questions around Saudi Arabia's behavior in the political world. Um, an example of, I suppose, of this, and Eddie Hearn did mention that the WWE had been in Saudi Arabia, I think 2 or 3 times in recent years, and I used to watch a lot of wrestling when I was younger. I don't anymore, but I do keep my ear to the streets when it comes to the world of wrestling, and I do remember around the time when the WWE went to Saudi Arabia the first time around. There was a lot of backlash because I don't think the female wrestlers were allowed to perform there, and I don't know whether it was because of what they wear to the ring, or whether it's just because they're women. But they weren't allowed to wrestle. The second time the WWE went there, because of these questionable political actions that Saudi Arabia have been involved with recently, a number of wrestlers refused to travel and refused to go and perform in Saudi Arabia as a form of protest, I suppose, to Saudi Arabia and WWE for being in partnership in business with them. Now, let's be honest, Saudi Arabia is a country that has a shitload of money, and they're willing to invest that money in sporting occasions such as this. And I don't personally begrudge Eddie Hearn or Joshua or Ruiz or anyone involved in taking this opportunity, just because I don't know enough about Saudi Arabia and what they're about from a political standpoint. I'm pretty sure there's people that have a lot more knowledge about this than me, and I'm pretty sure you can find their point of view online somewhere if you're interested. What I'm more interested about is a lot of hearsay and conjecture when it comes to Andy Ruiz, because a lot of people are talking about how Andy Ruiz hasn't signed this fight, and this announcement is by design, and it's Eddie Hearn and Joshua's team basically trying to force Andy Ruiz's hand and say, right, look, we've got this clause in this contract, we've got this rematch clause, we're exercising this right, so you basically have to put up or shut up. Now, from my point of view, and I touched on this in a previous video, and I have to admit I was wrong, because I predicted that they would be having this fight in Abu Dhabi, and I predicted they'd make the announcement close or soon after the UFC have their event in Abu Dhabi. I just thought the infrastructure was there, it was ready, and it would have been a good kind of test, I suppose, a test run with the UFC, and for the boxing to follow suit a couple of months after. So yeah, I was wrong on that, but the reason why I'm talking about this is in that same video, I mentioned that Andy Ruiz basically let the cat out of the bag, and he basically said, he told us that he's fighting in a neutral location, and I believe at that point he knew that Saudi Arabia is a location that he would be having this rematch in. Now, for all the people that are talking about how Andy Ruiz hasn't agreed to this, he's still negotiating, blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there are elements that they're still in negotiation on, but I don't think that this fight going ahead is part of that negotiation. I think this fight happening in Saudi Arabia on December 7th is a foregone conclusion. It will happen. He will be there on fight night. There's just other bits and pieces that they're probably negotiating, and they're trying to play hardball a little bit in certain areas that need to get ironed out. There'd be no logic in Andy Ruiz not taking this fight, simply because it would basically blackball him from fighting until any legal proceedings had been completed. So he could be sitting out for a year, he could be sitting out for 2 years, he could be sitting out for 3 years, he could be sitting out for 6 months, he could be sitting out for an extended period of time if he decides not to honour the clause in the contract, which basically says he needs to give Joshua a rematch. Aside from that, if he was to try and not take this fight, if he was to try and go down the legal path, let's just say all of it gets cleared up in a year's time, who's he gonna fight? Who's he gonna fight that will pay him as much as he stands to earn against Joshua in this rematch? There's not a single fight out there for him that will pay him this well. And just to put a cheeky little cherry on top, he's already convincingly beaten Anthony Joshua. He knows in his heart that he can beat Joshua in Saudi Arabia because he's already fucking done it. There would be no logical reason for Andy Ruiz to try to negotiate or try to maneuver his way out of this fight, because this is the biggest opportunity available to him now. If he was to try and not take this fight, he'd have to, I'd assume, relinquish those titles that he's got, because he can't hold up all of the championships that he's got during these kind of legal proceedings that would definitely happen if he does try to not take this fight. Does that make sense? So I think there's a number of reasons why people that are basically speculating about whether this fight happens or not, there's a number of reasons that I've just stated why they're wrong, effectively. I think the fact that this was chosen as a location and it wasn't the UK, I think that was done to appease Andy Ruiz and his team. I think Andy Ruiz and his team did try to leverage any kind of room for maneuver that they have in this contract to their advantage, and I'd expect them to do that. That's their job to do that. I said that in a previous video. It's their job to try and get the most out of this deal as they can for their fighter, and it seems like they've done a good job, because the first thing that they wanted, a neutral location, that's been done, and I'm certain that Ruiz will get paid more than what he's should be earning with regards to the contract that he signed before the first match, and I'm pretty sure he'll get a few other perks and privileges as well, and he's earned it. He's a fucking heavyweight champion of the world. He's earned that. But I think if he was to turn around and say, "Nah, I'm walking away from this. I'm not fighting Joshua in a rematch," that would be a massive, massive misstep. And if anyone was trying to advise him to do that, it would be for their own gain. It wouldn't be for Andy Ruiz and what's best for his career. Because even if Andy Ruiz loses, he's still going to earn millions of dollars, and his profile has risen exponentially. Like, if he was to lose to Joshua, he could go and fight a Kalnaki. He could go and fight anyone in that heavyweight division. Someone obviously with a bit of a name, but he could go and fight, and he could earn, you know, a payday a lot more than he could have dreamed of earning before he beat Joshua for in that initial match. So yeah, that's my thoughts on things. So there's going to be there's going to be 3 press conferences, one in Saudi Arabia, one in New York, and one in London. I'm not sure which order, but I'm pretty certain that they're going to happen in early September. So I'd be interested to see what the dynamics are between Joshua and Ruiz, because the first time around they were acting like fucking they were best mates. I don't think they'll be like that this time, and I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to when those press conferences do happen, all of these rumors and these people spewing these ideas about Ruiz not taking the fight, that will all be put to bed, and we can look forward to the build up of the fight and the fight itself in December. Let me know what you guys think. Put your comments below. Don't be scared to hit the like button. Share this with a friend if you've enjoyed the video, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you guys next time.